There we go. There's my audio. Sorry guys. Thank you, Zoe. Let me turn on some music. We'll just have some like nice cozy Oblivion music in the background. I am so sorry, you guys. I don't know what's been going on, but the mic on Streamlabs, I've been having some issues with it not automatically going to my headset. But yeah, I'm sorry you popped into an ad, Sword Swiper. Yeah, I wasn't muted exactly, Nate. Thank you all for letting me know, though. Hopefully it's not an omen. Hopefully we're getting our uh, bad luck out of the way right away. Uh, do, do, do. Sword, how are you? I'm doing very well today, thank you. I'm honestly a little nervous about this stream. I know I really shouldn't be. Like it's just, just gonna be a conversation with people I'm already friends with. It's not like this is a stressful thing, but I don't know, it's something different. Derpy, you unplugged your headphones to make sure your computer wasn't bugging. Hi, Rain. So I think, let me get a drink first, and then we'll go ahead and start some introductions, kind of go over what this is gonna be all about. Let me know if the music gets too loud or if you need it turned up a bit. I think it should be okay. Wish you had sub emo access. Aw, I'm sorry, Sword. Maybe you'll get gifted today. I'll talk about that in just a moment, actually. Gonna need to stay on top of the hydrates today. Gonna do a lot of talking. Okay. So, oh, thank you for the gifted sub. Was that? Yeah. Thank you for gifting Sword a sub. Anxiety is valid and your scars are real. Thank you. You're also a dork. So, on the topic of subs, today is a charity stream. You should notice down where the subscribe button usually is, it should be a donate button. And if you click on that, it'll give you the option to either support me or give to charity. Subs and bits will go to me. Any donations to the charity, Twitch will not take a cut of those. All your money will go straight to the charity. And today, our charity is the Trevor Project. For those of you who don't know, it is a pretty major organization that helps queer youth. And on that note, we will be using the term queer throughout this stream. It has historically had some use as a slur against LGBTQ people, but in more recent years it's seen a sort of reclamation, and I personally think it's a great umbrella term. It's far easier to say than LGBTQ+, and it really does encompass the entirety of that community. So we will be using that term. Hopefully it doesn't offend anyone here. For the most part, I don't encounter many people who are bothered by it. But the Trevor Project helps with you LGBTQ queer youths who need either counseling. They offer 24-hour counseling 7 days a week. They do research to help policymakers and educators. They provide those resources to, businesses or anyone who needs to work on facilitating, words are hard, basically they advocate, they protect, they research, they try to do whatever they can, and they have a focus on youths. So if that sounds like something you'd like to donate to, we've got the charity down there where the sub button is. None of your money will be taken by Twitch. It'll all go to the charity. If not, that's totally fine. You guys being here is enough, because honestly, the charity was kind of just a side thing to what I really want to do, which is have an open discussion with everyone, because tomorrow is Transgender Day of Visibility, which, what does that mean? It's just a day when we particularly try to spread awareness for the trans experience, essentially. I'm a little like off center and it's bugging me. Here, maybe, there we go. I lost my train of thought there. Basically, it's a day where we try to put ourselves, we as trans people, into the spotlight to help people understand where we're coming from, spread that awareness, and through that, hopefully, we can just make everyone's lives better. So that's essentially what the Day of Visibility is. It's just a day to spread awareness. And that's tomorrow, but scheduling worked out better today, so whatever. That's kind of where we're at. That's what we're doing. You guys can ask questions at any time. Obviously, as you can see, I'm not as attentive to chat. I will be reading what you guys say. I just won't be remarking quite as often as I usually do. You can ask questions every day. I will need to probably rely on Derpy and Nate for some help with keeping track of those. But let me kind of catch up on chat here a little bit, and then we'll go into introductions, because I have two people with me, two friends of mine who are also trans, and we're gonna, basically just talk about our experiences with you guys. Oh, we can still do the shout outs. I was kind of hoping, I forgot to actually enable it. Okay. Go ahead and shout out, streamer friends who pop in, because we do want to still support the people who support us. Yeah, go ahead and still shout them out. I don't think it'll take up too much of the chat space. But let me jump in. Oh, and obviously I'm not doing the nyas today. I felt like that would really take away from what we're trying to do here. So nyas will come back Wednesday when the next stream will be. No stream tomorrow. Hi Fan. Trevor Project is needed today now more than ever. It certainly is, and we will touch on political topics. We won't go too in depth, but unfortunately it's kind of integral to our existence. Like, we have to touch on those, because it's just, we can't talk about this without doing that. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons we need to fund something like the Trevor Project right now. Sub money goes, no, sorry Derpy, the sub money goes to me and Twitch the same way it usually would. It's only if you directly donate to the charity. Hi Ders. Oh, you need to get better taste in streamers. I should not be your favorite. Potato astronaut. Aw, cute. Hi Adam, it's so good to see you. made it to the beginning of one of your streams for a change. Yeah, it's a little different seeing you here. I'm glad you are, though, and thank you so much for the support. I actually advertised this stream on a couple of other Discord channels, and Adam was kind enough to at everyone on it. Okay, I think we're about caught up here. Some bits. Yes. And there is also anyone can do this command. I added a charity command that will give a quick overview of that stuff. So if you do !charity, I think I included the subs and bits going to me part of that. But that might be a little easier for you guys. Yeah, I'm more than happy to support however you can. Thank you so much, Adam. All right, let me take another drink. I'm probably gonna need to refill this at some point. Okay, gonna take this drink, gonna start introductions, gonna get into this discussion proper. I'm sorry I'm keeping you guys waiting. Oh my gosh, Durs, you're at 600 followers now? I told you, you're skyrocketing right to partner. Hi, BC. All right. So, those of you who don't know me, I think most of you do by now, but I'm Astral. I'm a she/her trans woman, and just some other relevant demographic information, because one of the highlights of this is that we all have different experiences. There's no one right way to transition, or you don't even have to transition to be trans. But each of us is going to have our own experience based on, who we are, what we go through. And so I'm 35. I think both of the people with me are younger than me, so I'm going to be the oldest here. And all three of us are in the US. So we're not going to be covering international experiences. Those are things you'll have to talk about with other people. But yeah, that's essentially me. I'm 35-year-old white US trans woman, she, her. We'll get into some more as we go through this. But now I'd like to introduce you to the two people who are with me today. And y'all might recognize one of them. Here, let me switch the camera so you can see all three of us. Here we have Fern in the robot avatar, and Fern is actually the one who has done a lot of the artwork on the channel. All of the fishing characters, the sub alerts, were all done by Fern. Well, okay, not all the fishing characters, all the custom fishing characters were done by Fern. And go ahead and let you kind of do your introduction, Fern. Anything you want people to know. We'll go ahead and zoom in here.
Yeah, thanks for that, definitely. I'm Fern. I'm a 19-year-old trans woman. I use pronouns. I am from New York State. And I think other than that, really, I'm a college student. And I'm white there. That's the best demographics I got.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to go any more in depth than that. We'll be talking about a lot of other stuff as we go, so that kind of just gives a general, what's going on with us. And then beside Fern, we have Luna, who hasn't been on one of my streams for a while, but some of you older followers might recognize her from some of my earlier ones. We did some horror worlds together, and I think some game worlds as well.
Probably also from me passing out in one stream.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself however you want.
What?
No worries, take your time.
I'm a white 23-year-old trans woman from Virginia.
All right.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, that is totally enough. All right. So, yeah, that's kind of who we are. All three of us have had our own unique trans experiences. And we're just kind of going to go through some different topics. Let me pull it up actually. I have a list of things to touch on, as well as some of your all questions that you posted on our Discord. To be clear though, you can totally ask questions during this, like you don't have to wait till the end or anything, just shout them out. But yeah, like I said, I might need Derpy and Nate to help me keep track of some of those. Hi Tony, it's good to see you. 35, thought you were... Oh my gosh, I'm not 35, I'm 34. Why do I keep doing this? Anyway, that's...
Aging yourself.
I know, I've done that multiple times. I don't know why. I turned 35 this year. But anyway. Okay. So first we're gonna start with a question that I didn't write down who asked the question, so we're just gonna have them all anonymous, but you can see them in the Discord if you're really curious. What does Trans Day of Visibility mean to you personally? And that's kind of a... I feel bad for my answer because it honestly doesn't mean anything super special to me. The fact that it exists is, I appreciate it because it does spread that support and awareness. But beyond that, it doesn't hold any special meaning. Nothing significant has happened for me with it. I know one of my other friends is hoping to start HRT tomorrow. They were specifically shooting for the Day of Visibility to do that. And so it definitely means a lot to some other people. It just, it's kind of just a utility day for me. But what do you guys think? I'll switch the camera over to you guys. Does the Day of Visibility have any special meaning for either of you?
Do you want to go first, or should I?
It doesn't really have much of any significance to me personally. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's totally
similar
okay.
Yeah, kind of same also, where I don't think I even knew when the Trans Day of Visibility was until maybe a year or two ago. I kind of just forget it's a thing, which is maybe sad to say, but also I just don't... I feel like when you're trans, you're not actively thinking about, oh yeah, I should be visible on this specific day. You kind of just are existing normally. So that's how I experience it.
Right, and that brings up a good... I'm the same way, and because we're in the community, I feel like we're supposed to, quote unquote, be aware of all these special days and stuff. I think most of us, we don't want to have to, fight for ourselves, so to speak. Like, not to say that we want other people to fight our battles, but, you know, not all of us are wanting to go out there and be activists. We just want to live our lives. And so, like, there's also the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which I believe is in October. And that's one that I always forget about as well. Like, I feel bad if I forget about it. I respect what it is, and I like that these days exist because they do help, you know, what's the word? Validate, I suppose. Yes, yes. It does help represent our community, which we definitely need more of. But yeah, the days themselves, they often just become another day, like, you know, we were all kind of saying. So let's move on from that question to, I think we're going to start with what I think is probably one of the biggest things people want to know when they talk to us about our transness is, like, when and how did you know that you were trans? And we'll get to that question a little later. But like, for you guys, was there, excuse me, was there like one moment when you just knew you were trans? I know for me it was kind of a more prolonged thing, but did either of you have like an egg cracking moment, so to speak?
Personally, I think for me, it's just taken place over quite a few years. Let's say about, what, 5 or 6 years ago? Oh, this is before, like, I think I was still in Louisiana and everything, under 18, and just kind of scrolling through, not Instagram, some social media.
Sure.
Specifically in, you know, like, the queer space and everything. And kind of just started chatting with people and whatnot. And that's whenever I kind of first had that hint of it. Because, like, oh, these people have had, like, you know, similar situations or similar thoughts than I have, that I've had. And then come a couple of years ago, I had just started, you know, actually investing myself into VR chat and started spending time in a world which I know Astral would know, Trans Academy.
Yeah, and that was definitely a world that I joined as well, although it was well after I had started transitioning. But that was a spot that helped you come to terms with your transness.
That's what knocked off that final piece of shell.
All right.
That's good. I'm actually in the Trans Academy Discord server, even though I've never been in VR chat world.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah, but in general, I'm not on VR chat that much anyway. I didn't. Well, I kind of had an egg cracking moment. As a kid, I played video games a lot, and I started playing first-person shooter games a lot, and I was meeting other people online and making friends that way a lot. And then one day, someone who I met, I was either 12 or 13. I met this person who became my best friend for quite a few years afterwards. But he assumed I was a guy just because I always had a bit of a lower voice, even when I identified as a girl. And he assumed I was a guy, and I remember in that moment, I was with like one of my other friends at the time, and I just said to her, "Oh, let's just go along with it."
Oh my
see
gosh.
how that goes, sort of as like a joke, me like heavy air quotes with the joke there. And I said that to her, and that was my first time like having someone who saw me as a man, and it was really it made me feel really happy with myself.
Yeah,
And I
that's
feel
like
kind
a
of bad, and like obviously I told that person after a little bit that I had been identifying as a girl up until that point. But it kind of was like my test run to see if I actually preferred being viewed as a boy or not, and it sort of just happened by accident.
Yeah, no, that's like
But
a
it was awesome.
super euphoric experience. And for it to
Hmm.
happen so young too. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of trans people dream of having stuff like that happen. I know I certainly did, especially transitioning later in life. Um, but yeah, that's great that you got the opportunity to just have a, like you said, trial run.
Yeah, it was definitely a spontaneous sort of thing. I hadn't been questioning. I knew I wasn't like a straight person, and I was mainly questioning that. But it never even occurred to me that I might have been trans. And then that happened, and I was like, wait, I'm gonna go along with this and see where it goes. And then anyway, that escalated quickly. Not complaining.
Right. Well, for me, yeah, like I said, I was a much slower coming to terms with it. Like it was, I don't know, probably like preteen time when I started thinking like, gosh, I really wish I was a girl. Um, but even before that, like there were things where I was like kind of just confused about why guys and girls were so different. Like, um, for example, we would play kickball in elementary school, and this was the '90s, so it was I don't know if it's still common, but it was very common for like, oh, guys versus girls for the sport game. Um, and so stuff like that, it always confused me. I was like, well, like I'd kind of rather be on the girls' team, and not even fully thinking why I wanted to be on the girls' team. Like it was just sort of a subconscious desire. Um, but yeah, it was kind of just this thing where in my early teens and preteens, I totally knew I wanted to be a girl. I just didn't know what that meant. I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the knowledge. Um, and so it wasn't until decades, actually later, until I actually did something about that. So it's kind of a hard thing to answer. Like there wasn't exactly a when I knew or a how I knew. It just kind of developed. There was no egg cracking. It was just like the shell dissolved around me and things slowly got clearer outside of it until there was just no shell. Um, so, yeah, there is a question tied to this topic. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, we have two alerts going. Oh my gosh. Bamboozle, thank you so much for donating $20. That is awesome. And they will really be able to use that money. And you're also the first donation of the day. So yay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um uh, uh what was I saying? Oh, a question attached to this topic that was asked in Discord uh, was, do you think there were signs when you were younger that you didn't pick up on that gave it away? And I I don't think there's a single trans person who would say no to that. I think all of us, once we figure things out, we all kind of look back and say like, "Oh my gosh, that's that's what that was all about." Things like, the kickball games with me. Um, and I've been yapping for a while, so I'll pass it over to you two. Did you have any of those moments that you look back on them and you're like, how did I not see that I was trans?
Yes, two of them that I can actively remember, or that I definitely think played a part. Uh, so the biggest one was much like similar to you, just different situation, I suppose. When I was younger, I was living with my dad, and I'm not gonna get into the whole story of that time, but when I was grounded, nothing else to do in the room, no book reading, no nothing. And the one thought that would just constantly ring through my mind was, I wish I was born a girl. So that's the major one. The other one is just in general playing video games, especially the games with character creators, or where you could choose like between a male or female version of the main character. And just consistently, it would always be the female.
I think that's a big
Back
one
to back.
too.
And I had gotten asked one time, I think it was by my dad, why are you playing a girl in the game? And I'm like, because I want to. Like, this is the only thing I can think of. It is like no good reason as to why.
Yeah, like there's the joke cliche reason where you're just like, well, if I have to look at a character, I want to look at a girl with a nice butt or something like that. And it's just like, yeah, there's these super see-through excuses we come up with, or even just like, oh, I just felt like it. But yeah, I think like every trans gamer has a similar story about that sort of stuff. I know I certainly do. What about you, though, Fern? Unless, did you have more, Luna? Okay.
Yeah, the main thing I can think of is like during Halloween as a kid, I often dressed up as like boy characters, but um, it was interesting because growing up, same with like sexuality too. I guess I didn't have a strong concept of gender because I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive household, and like me and both my brothers, my parents were never restrictive about what we were. Like my brothers, fully cis men, they would dress up as like Disney princesses as kids. And
That's
wear
pretty
dresses and
amazing,
stuff.
honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And that definitely contributed, and like vice versa with me, where I actually, compared to them, I actually didn't like Disney princesses as much as them. It's funny. But I like, because of that, I didn't realize fully the true differences between boys
Right.
and girls, I think. And like only once I started to get into school, and like you said with the kickball like example, where boys and girls started to get separated in ways, and it's just very odd. It's a very strange and isolating experience.
Yeah, kind of
when that
a
starts
bit
to
of
happen.
culture shock for you.
Definitely. And the same with like I don't think my parents ever made me feel pressure to like men. So like because of that, also I didn't realize like that it was expected to be straight. I'm very lucky because I was in that kind of a household. So then, because of that, I viewed myself very differently than if I were to have grown up expecting to wear like X, Y, and Z
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Um, so it was always supported because of that, and I think, I mean, they probably could have been moments that were defining me and like pointing out that I wasn't a girl, but at the same time, it could be said the same for my brothers who were both cis. So who knows?
Sure,
It's
yeah.
very interesting how we grew up. So
Yeah, and that
it's
that is a
really
very
that
different
nice.
experience. Like I think more of that like gender neutral child rearing is more popular these days, but it's still not like that common. And if I ever do have kids, like I definitely want to do that. Like I don't want to like deny the existence of gender or anything, but like, I just don't want to put all those gender norms and gender roles. I don't want to shove those down their throat or anything. So it sounds like you got kind of the ideal version of that sort of rearing. Um,
Yeah, where like with, I agree, and I know what you mean. But we're like, I think especially with little kids, they should all just get the chance to experiment with what they want to wear, not in any like deep or
yeah,
intense way, but like when you're walking down a toy aisle or something, and whatever is appealing to a little kid is just appealing to a little kid, and that shouldn't
exactly.
be like treated as bad whether or not they're a boy or a girl. And like same with outfits and stuff. Like wearing dresses could be fun. That's just like a thing that I think every kid, I mean, obviously not every kid, but I think a lot of kids probably have that interest
I
in
mean,
trying on
a
dresses.
lot of kids just they want to role play, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think it's
Totally.
I don't think they necessarily have that drive towards one or the other. Like they just kind of figure out what they like, or they're just taught early on, oh yeah, that's a girl thing, I don't want that. um but yeah, role playing particularly is very common for
Mm-hmm.
children. We are kind of deviating a little bit away. I do want to talk more about this, swing back to both in nonconformity as trans people, because there's a lot to talk about there. Um, and then also just transness and families. So we'll get back to these topics as well, but we'll go ahead and swing back to like signs from when we were younger. But yeah, you kind of had a unique experience where that doesn't really apply as much to you as a lot of other trans people. Um,
Yeah, it was strange, definitely, in a good way. But
yes,
yeah, like
yes.
it surprises people often.
Um, so for me, uh, yeah, I kind of touched on it with the kickball thing earlier. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of just little things like that. Um, one thing that really stuck with me, because it was a very scary moment, was actually the first time I tried on girl clothes. And like, to be clear before we get into the story, like, you can be a guy and wear girl clothes. I'm not saying that, liking to wear girl clothes, or, being a girl who likes to wear guy clothes, or any variation. Clothing doesn't make your gender. It was just, for me, it was definitely a big stepping stone where it was like, hey, you should probably be looking at your gender a little bit. Um, and so, yeah, the first time I wore girl clothes, I was home alone. I had stayed home sick. I wasn't like the sickest ever, but I was laying on the couch watching a movie, and no one else was home. And I had been thinking, like, gosh, I wonder what it's like to wear girl clothes. I wanted to wear them. I like there wasn't really any uh conscious reason other than it felt like it would be right. And so I still regret it, but I went into my mom's closet and I tried stuff on, and it made me like really happy. I I just went all in with it. Like, the dam broke. I tried on makeup, all that stuff. I looked awful. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff, so it was awful. And that was kind of sad, but it felt good to do that stuff. But then I kind of panicked at one point. I was like I was shaking for most of the time doing this, and like at one point I was just like, okay, this is too much. And I kind of just like, I took things off. I got things off as fast as I could and just like left. I didn't clean up well at all. It was very obvious that I had been messing with all that stuff. And so of course they caught me. They confronted me about it the next day, or a day or two later, I don't know. And it's one of my biggest regrets, which actually falls into another question that we'll go more into later. But it's one of my biggest regrets that I couldn't be honest with them. But I was so scared. I knew they knew I was lying. And like with tears in my eyes and there, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what all that mess is about that happened when I was the only one home. And so that was kind of a big sign that like something was up. But even after that, I was just like, no, I must just be a weirdo. Like, I still didn't have the vocabulary for what it truly meant to be trans and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's kind of my big sign from when I was younger. But there were definitely others, from the kickball stuff to dreams about, wearing the girls' school uniforms, stuff like that. Let's move on to our next topic, unless you guys have any final thoughts to add on how did you know, and like early signs, stuff like that. No? Okay.
Good.
Then let me grab another drink of water and we'll move on to our next topic. And also, thank you so much to all of you hanging out in chat or just lurking and watching. I'm sorry I'm not as attentive to you today, but I really appreciate you guys being here and hanging out for this. I've seen a little reminder popping up periodically, but just remember we are doing a charity to the Trevor Project today, so if you're interested in donating to them, you can learn more. Just put in !charity. I think I included a link to the Trevor Project website, so you can definitely look into them before you donate, if you decide to donate. But I appreciate you guys just being here. So, nothing weird about being different, sort. Yeah, absolutely. And that I do want to make that clear. Like I mentioned before, wanting to wear those girl clothes, oh my gosh, Ross, thank you so much for your $10 to the Trevor Project. I appreciate you so much, and that money will go to good use, helping to save queer youths' lives through research and counseling and just advocacy. Thank you so much. What was I gonna say right before that? What was I saying?
Next question, maybe.
It must have been next question. Sorry, I am Spacey. For those of you who have not tuned into my channel before, this is not an uncommon event. I forget things. All right.
I can vouch.
All right. So, the next topic we'll talk about is coming out and transitioning. I think that's probably another one of the big things people want to know when they talk to us about our trans experiences is like, how did we come out and what's our experience with transitioning? And I'm sure there's at least a few trans people, whether you're closeted or out, in the audience right now who are interested in hearing other people's experience too, because they're thinking, how am I going to do this? So that kind of, we have a few questions relevant to this topic, but I think we should just start by kind of talking about what it was like for us coming out and where we're at with our transition so far, because you totally don't, there's no requirements for transition. You can be trans and do absolutely nothing with transitioning. You can socially transition, but not medically transition. There is no right way to transition. So let's start with, we seem to be going in an order, so let's start with you, Luna.
My brain just defaulted.
Yeah, no worries. Just how did you come out, or have you come out? Because that could totally be a possibility too.
Yes, actually, I have came out. Trying to think. So, I've come out to my mom, and which at that time it was like about the 6-year mark. 6 years ago, mark. This was before, I had any ability to transition or anything like that. I still didn't even know that it was possible.
That's totally fair.
And I never really presented. I just knew that something wasn't necessarily right. And at the time, I had used non-binary, just like the general umbrella term.
Sure.
To kind of identify with. And then, whenever a little bit after I started hormones and everything, about December of 2023. Yeah. I had kind of came out to my mom after I started hormones. And then same with my sisters, which thankfully my mom doesn't understand it, but she's also kind of slowly getting to the point to where it's like she'll at least refer to me in general gender neutral terms.
Well, that's great, that progress. Yeah.
And I came out to my stepbrother, which is on my dad's side. He's very much like my dad in the religious way. And I no longer have contact with either of them for,
Sure.
obvious reasons.
I'm sorry it went that way with them. But at least you have your mom.
Yes. It's been rocky, but not impossible to kind of continue on with life after that.
Right. Yeah, it can be such a hard thing when our families don't accept us, and it's not, an exclusively trans thing. It's, the queer community in general has a rough time with this, and I'm sure there's, other communities out there as well, but for the queer community in general, it's really sad. Like, I can't we have to just expect. Okay, let me rephrase that. So, like, in my time in like the Trans Academy Discord or any other spaces in VR chat where there's a lot of queer people, it's unfortunately not uncommon to have someone come to you in like a bit of a panic, like, oh my gosh, I think, X and so and so family member found out that I'm trans or gay or whatever. And like, the advice we have to give them is like, if you're not sure how they're gonna react, make sure you have like resources on hand. Make sure you have places that you can go if you get kicked out of the house. It's an unfortunate thing that happens, and it hurts me every time that I have to like give that advice to be prepared for something like that. But it's unfortunately, we do need to be prepared. So yeah, it's a rough space to be in. But did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Actually, yes, something I thought about after the fact.
Yeah, no worries.
So, my dad's sister, my aunt, I don't know how she found out, but it must have been through like the grapevine. She messaged both me and my mom, and was saying that like she supports us both, she supports me and everything like that, and was
Aww.
wholeheartedly said in the message that she had some words with my dad, and it's like, nice.
That's so great. I'm glad you have that ally. Alright, so we're gonna move on to you next, Fern, but first, I have been hydrating too much. I need to take a quick bathroom break. So we are going to go to the transition screen. I will mute you two so that you can, talk if you want to, make noises, whatever, without worrying about it. But yeah, we are going to. Luna, Rain says your aunt rocks. Here, let me unmute you real quick, Luna. All right, you're unmuted.
Yes, I very much agree. Unfortunately, though, we don't stay in good contact just because, like, she's usually busy. But,
that's fair. All right, so let me mute them again. I'm gonna go take a quick restroom break, which is actually pretty perfect. We're about at the scheduled halfway mark. We will definitely go overtime if we need/want to. But we'll go ahead and run an ad, a 3-minute ad, so hopefully you guys don't have to deal with pre-rolls for the rest of the stream. Give me just 3 minutes and I will be right back. right. It looks like ad is just ending. Perfect timing. Let's bring you guys back in and let's unmute our guests. All right. We are back. Thank you for your patience. I feel so much better. I am ready for more hydration. So we were just talking about coming out and transitioning. We just heard from Luna, so let's move over to Fern next. So how did you come out, and where are you at transition wise, or again, did you come out?
I did. I came out to my mother. I sent her an email because I was so terrified. So I sent her an
Aww.
email and she opened it up next to me.
Oh my
to see it.
gosh.
And I think all I wrote was like, in all lowercase, I think I'm a boy or something. And she just looked at me and she said, I know.
Aww.
So that was
That's
pretty
so
iconic.
cute.
Yeah. And then I came out to one of my brothers and my father, and then I never came out to my other brother because I was terrified to tell him, and he just figured it out eventually. I don't know if he told him. Someone evidently did. I've never talked to him about it though, and I don't want to because, quite frankly, I'm not sure what he would say. So I would just rather never touch it, and hopefully he's supportive. And everyone else in my life kind of just figured it out. But I was lucky that I got to transition pretty young. I had figured out and was questioning my identity during middle school primarily. So then my direct family knew that I was trans, and I went into high school fully presenting as a boy for the first time.
That's amazing.
Which was terrifying, but it was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool because a lot of people didn't know that I was trans in high school. So that was a pretty, that was a nice fresh start in a lot of ways, and it really affirmed my identity. And then I was able to get top surgery in 2022, and I've been on HRT for almost 4 years. So I've been.
You're in it.
I am and I am like the prime example of a trans kid that I think is now becoming a political like talking point again.
Yeah.
Which is funny
Yeah.
because like it's so, I don't know. From my experience, all I can say is that it was entirely me pushing for my own transition, and no one else manipulated me into being trans.
Well,
I can
and
certainly say that much.
and let's talk about that topic for a little bit because it is relevant to your transition. And I did have someone message me in private that they wanted to hear about other people's thoughts on like minors transitioning. And we have here a prime example of like that all going right. A lot of the fear is that, you know, they're gonna be forced into it, or they don't know what they're getting into. And just in general, like, I don't remember what the exact statistic is, but it's an insanely small amount of trans people who have transitioned end up regretting it. And those that do, the majority of them are like they cite the reasoning for detransitioning not being so much because they made a mistake. It's like with their identity, I mean, it's more because like the effects of that society was having on them, like the intolerance of society. It was too hard to live as a trans person in our society for them, and so they would just rather live as their assigned sex at birth than try to navigate through that. And so we do hear from detransitioners, and most of them don't, at least most of the ones I've heard, don't have any ill will towards trans people. They don't wish that someone had, you know, stopped them from trying to be themselves. Again, you know, just our experiences. There are people out there, and we don't want to get into too much of like bashing people, but there's trans people and detransitioners out there who definitely seem to hate trans people. And so, yeah, bad people, you know, exist in any community. But, yeah, from everything I've seen, the majority of people who transition don't regret it. As far as like minors transitioning, like I don't encounter many trans people who are against it. The only thing is like I think a lot of transphobes or just people who are against minors transitioning, they think every minor is like getting surgery, and that's totally not what's happening. We're not just like, oh, you identify as a boy, okay, we're getting rid of all, you know, all your girl parts. Thank you for the follow, Dark Skull. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. Whoops. But yeah, what do you both think about minors transitioning? We should define really quick. Gender affirming care does not mean getting surgery. It does not mean going on full hormones. There are puberty blockers that delay puberty from happening, and those, as far as we see, like, you know, obviously we're still learning things. We need to see people grow up, but from all the research we can tell, puberty blockers are reversible. Like if you decide the gender or the sex you were born as is the gender you identify as, you can just stop the puberty blockers, go through puberty, and you're all right. And so that's the.
You could even, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
You could also even like if you're more comfortable, you could even classify it as like being a late bloomer. Like
yeah, it's totally true.
Yeah, and something with puberty blockers too. It's not just used for trans kids, and I think that's a very common misconception that it was like something for trans kids. And there are many reasons that young people will be on puberty blockers. Just even at the case of like, you know, there are some people who hit puberty by the age of 8 or something, and like that's horrible. That's a really experience to have. So like that's just the one reason, but there's plenty. So it's kind of silly also that it's focused on trans kids so much when there's many reasons for a very long time, and it's not like there haven't been any adverse effects.
Yeah.
Like you said.
And on that note too, you know, the same thing applies to other HRT things like estradiol, which is the estrogen that I'm on. It's not just used to, you know, quote, make boys into girls. Like women going through menopause will take medications like this. They go through their own HRT. It's actually been kind of hard sometimes on Google on occasion when I'm trying to find things about HRT. I'll get a lot of search results for menopausal women, and I'm like, no, that's not the one I want. But yeah, I'm glad we have you here, Fern, because I'm sure you know a lot more about that stuff going through it as a minor than I do. I want to be clear that we're not like medical experts or anything. We're just people going through those things. We're on these medications. We're not like trained or educated in this sort of stuff. I mean, like we might have some education. Like I just have a bachelor's in psychology, so I don't have that medical knowledge other than what I look up and what I experience myself. But I think unless you guys have more to say about minors transitioning, um, oh, there is also like minors can socially transition as well, and gender affirming care is typically used to refer to the medications and stuff, but it can also include like going to a therapist. And gender affirming care could be being allowed to present as their identified gender in school, which, you know, would be socially transitioning. Gender affirming care can mean more than just the limited view that I think a lot of people in the mainstream, whether, you know, well-meaning or otherwise, it means a lot more than I think a lot of people realize. But yeah, if you two have any more on that topic, we can.
Actually, there was one thing I
Yeah.
did want to say, and this is going back to detransitioning.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I believe because I do actually know a detransitioner, and they're pretty fucking awesome. Like, for them, it was just them trying to discover who they are.
Right.
So, you know, they started transitioning, and at some point, they had realized, yeah, this isn't for me, so they stopped. They stopped taking hormones and everything. And now, they, at least on social media, right, they go by it's.
Okay.
Like, whenever it comes to IRL, they go by pretty much anything, I believe. And the detransition rate, or at least the rate of regretting transitioning. You okay over there?
Yeah, sorry, I was just addressing something. Oh, was I lagging? Am I good now?
Yeah, I just saw you kind of like lagging.
Okay,
but,
okay.
The rate of it is.
But yeah,
like
Derpy, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, that's the number I thought I had heard, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we did your coming out and transitioning, so my turn. So I didn't come out to my family until, how old? I think I was a little before 30. So like my late 20s, I came out, and even before that, I don't even remember when it was, but like some years before, I actually came out to my mom to some degree. Oh yeah, thank you, Will Ramos, for the follow. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt them talking. But thank you for the follow, and thank you, Nala, for the follow. I'm glad you're both enjoying the stream. But at one point, I went to my mom and I said, I'm like going through some gender stuff. Like I'm still thinking about things, because I was still scared. Like, I knew I wanted to be a girl. I was just afraid of calling myself trans, you know? And so I told my mom that, and I asked her not to tell Dad, because I was just afraid. And then I was too afraid to do anything else for some years after that. And then I came out to both mom and dad formally. Um, but then I didn't really do anything for a while again. Like, I don't remember how long it was, but I didn't come out to my brothers or anyone else. I had a very staggered coming out story. Um, so, yeah, eventually I did come out to the entirety of my immediate family, but even then, I didn't start really transitioning. Like, I would wear some femme clothes around the house, but I didn't make strides to, like, start socially transitioning or medically transitioning until 2022, I want to say. I think that's when I started on hormones, and it was a few months after that that I came out at work and started fully living as a woman. Like, that's how I identify. I have my name changed, I have my gender markers changed. There are still a couple places I need to change my name formally with, but like legally, I'm, a woman. Um, as far as like bottom surgery, that is something in my transition I want to do, but it's not something I have in the foreseeable future. It's expensive, and you gotta deal with insurance and stuff. So, yeah, my coming out and transitioning, I'm afraid, isn't all that interesting. It was very slow, but I finally made it. And even though I was in my 30s when I started doing this stuff, I'm happier than I have been since probably I was a child. So yeah, it's pretty great. We do have a couple questions connected to this topic. So the first one we'll go with, because I think it'll be kind of a easy question to go through quickly. What's been your favorite moment in your transition so far? And it doesn't specify medical or social or anything particular, so it's kind of open-ended. But what is y'all's favorite moment in your transition so far?
I don't know. It's been kind of great just in general.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard question to answer.
Like whenever I think a few months in of hormones, or probably even from the beginning, like you get that kind of like placebo euphoria.
Yeah.
Like just from there to now, it's been amazing. Like I've been able to actually cry.
That's
For,
such
like,
a big one.
hours
I
on
love
end.
that.
especially crying so much growing up, and then just at some point it's like it was. I think I had completely dissociated for like most of my life, and the only times I'd really cry is at funerals, and it would only be a single tear. So just having the emotional range that I do now than compared to before,
Yeah.
it's
Emotional
one of the most
freedom.
amazing things. Yes.
Because that's something I think a lot of trans women probably notice. And it's something that it's a little beyond the scope of what we're talking about here, but with men's health in general, like there's so much toxic masculinity that we still have to overcome just for like cis men and trans men as well, because I've heard that from some trans men where it's a bit of a shock how unemotional they're expected to be sometimes. I mean, you have all that support. So hopefully it hasn't happened too much with you, Fern, but I've heard it from some other trans men.
It, I definitely, I think at first when I started transitioning, I had a lot of, I think I was trying to act a particular way.
Right.
And then also being on testosterone does actually make you cry less. It's really weird, like how it started to change the way that I was processing my emotions. But then, like after a few months, I started crying again. I'm such a big crier. I cry during movies. I cry during everything, and it's great. I don't want to be someone who doesn't cry at all. So
yeah, and I think we should be
nice
more
that I recovered from that.
Yeah. I think we should be more open in general with men crying, and I think we're slowly moving that direction. I think it's becoming more acceptable for men to be emotional. But yeah, it's something that I definitely struggled with, and sounds like Luna did as well. Like, I was a very emotional kid. Like, I wore my heart on my sleeve. I was the sort of kid who would cry at school. On my first day of school, I was hugging my mom's leg, crying at the gate. And like, you know, after you start interacting with society as a whole, you start learning, oh, I'm not supposed to cry in public, especially if I'm a boy. And you kind of just, after you have that beaten into you, not literally beaten, just, society pounding it into you. You kind of just go the opposite direction. You shove it down there, and you're not as emotional. That's how it was for me, at least. Like, it, being able to cry again, like Luna said, was so great. But yeah, I don't remember, I think we kind of went on a tangent, but yeah, so Luna, was that your favorite moment, quote unquote, was being able to cry again?
Yeah, I'd say.
Okay.
For the sake of the question, yes.
Sure, yeah, it can be kind of a difficult question because it's so open-ended. But yeah, Fern, what about you? What's been your favorite moment transitioning?
Yeah, similar to Luna, there could be so many, but I guess the easiest one and the most, like, it is a very cliche one, but after I got top surgery, that was like I know I should maybe think about the pain of like recovery or something, but I had such a great week. Or it took me 3 weeks. I didn't go to school for 3 weeks, but that was okay. Like, I was having the time of my life. I even still now, my main association with the smell of that like sterile smell from hospitals and like surgical rooms, I associate that with my transition and my surgery, and it makes me happy.
That's so interesting.
Know is not how it is for many people, and I'm hoping, unfortunately, probably in life that's going to change, but as of now, that's still my association. So when I'm in hospital, I get happy when I smell that, so I just think about that week. And I remember being extremely loopy after getting home, and I woke up, like, I had to sleep on the couch sitting up for my recovery.
Oh,
and then
so you wouldn't, like,
bed.
roll on it or anything?
Yeah, so I wouldn't, like, hurt my cuts. And I remember waking up one night, the night I came home, and going into the bathroom, and I was super out of it, and I had my phone on me, and I took a selfie of myself, and I looked insane. Like, it was so funny. And then I started messaging my friends, and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Oh
what
my
happened?
God.
I look so different. It's awesome. And I was so happy, like, even right then. And I remember like sometimes people are worried that, or I guess I had heard it before my surgery that sometimes people get scared immediately after their surgery and are like, oh no, I made a mistake.
Yeah,
And I had
yeah.
even written a letter to myself in case I started to have that like
Oh, that's
fear.
a really good
Um,
idea.
yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you're ever
Yeah, because
having a
I
decision like that.
definitely plan on doing bottom surgery at some point. Like, I would love to do it as soon as I'm able to.
Yeah. But I wrote myself that letter, and I actually read it like a year ago. It was really cute, but I never needed it. I was so happy immediately after. Like, even now, I still feel really happy about it. Which
Aww.
I was more nervous about it before, and then since then, I really have never had a moment where I even regretted getting a surgery, which is nice because I feel like there's so much fear, or
Yeah.
we're taught to like be afraid of our own decisions when I think people can know what they want. At least I knew what I wanted.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like for me, actually, if you're done, this is actually a good lead into my favorite moment. But if do you have anything else you wanted to
no,
add?
you can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite moment, I think, is like that. Oh, actually, it's a toss up between taking my first dose of HRT and right after the doctor's appointment where I got prescribed the HRT. I I was just cloud nine after that. So I went to the doctor to do this after not having gone to the doctor in well over a decade. Like, I was not taking care of myself for pretty much the entirety of my 20s. I was just kind of, I was kind of just going through the motions, you know? And, like, by the time I got to 30, I was like, I cannot keep doing this. Like, I had resolved that it was too late to transition for me and I was just gonna grow old and die as a man. But after a decade, I'm like, that was a really long time. I need to change things. So yeah, I started going to the doctor, and it was my first appointment. I was gonna ask about HRT, and it was a pretty short conversation. Her just kind of checking like why I wanted HRT, where I was at as far as like other parts of my transition, and like after I kind of just genuinely answered her question, she's like, "Oh yeah, we can get those prescribed for you today." Like we had to do the blood tests and stuff, but I was expecting to have to like wait a couple weeks at least before I did anything. And so I remember on the drive home, I just kept grinning. I was so happy because it beat my best expectations. And so yeah, that's probably my favorite moment of my transition, because I was just so happy after that. Uh, I
That's
forgot.
so sweet.
Yeah, I feel like there was something else connected to yours that I wanted to touch on, but I don't remember. Um, oh, right. I was also going to mention, because I know some of you who are out there who want to transition might be interested. Um, as far as the hormones, I can't speak for the testosterone side of things, but with the male to female HRT, the typical average earliest you can expect the physical changes is like 3 months. That's on average the earliest you'll see physical changes. But the psychological benefits, oh my gosh, it was instant. The second I took that first dose of HRT, a weight just lifted. Like I didn't feel like I was on a time crunch anymore. Everything leading up to that, I felt like every day I wasn't doing that was another day testosterone was just infecting my body. And that's kind of a gruesome way to put it, but that's how it felt. Thank you for the follow, Raven. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. But yeah, that first dose is very significant for, I think, a lot of people. Um, yeah, Repairman, we are playing Oblivion in the background. But yeah, how, Fern, maybe you could tell us, like, how quickly did you see changes from the testosterone? If you're okay, like, talking about that stuff, of course.
Oh yeah. I'm just thinking about it now. It's been a while. I think maybe a month into it, I started to notice things. Which is pretty
wow.
quick.
Yeah. Is that typical for the testosterone?
I think so. It can vary a lot, I think, but when I've talked to other people on testosterone, it seems like it can happen somewhat quickly. The main thing I noticed, though, it's like not. It's you just start sweating a lot more, and then you start like, little boy puberty sucks, kind of in some ways.
So you know what? We're already kind of talking about it, so let's continue talking about like the effects of transitioning, the things we noticed, the things we liked, because sweating is definitely something that I noticed, but on the reverse side, like girls, I didn't know this before, but girls sweat different. Like biological men sweat more in like certain points of their body, like points like armpits, I think the groin area, and maybe like a couple other places. Girls, though, like biological girls, and when I say biological girls, I mean trans women on hormones too. We sweat more universally over our body, and it's kind of a weird feeling. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like anytime I get sweaty now, I get a little euphoric because it feels different. And it's also, as I understand, it's not as stinky as guy sweat.
I think so. I don't really remember very well now.
But yeah, there were a lot of things like not sweating as much and sweating differently, and the soft skin. That was one of the things I love. Like, it's still one of my favorite parts about the physical changes. I'm still waiting for my boobs to grow a little more. They're pretty tiny. But yeah, right now I think my favorite part of the physical changes is the smoother skin.
Kind of a funny story about the smoother skin and everything.
Okay.
It was also one of like the first physical differences I noticed. It was like my arms felt smoother and everything, and then I don't know why. This could just be like the increase in like ADHD activity, because that's one of the effects of hormones, for feminizing hormones that I'm aware of, is that like it can
exacerbate ADHD
and autism. Like, it can affect it quite significantly.
Okay.
For me, that was the case.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Well, I'm working at Walmart at the time, so cleaning up and everything, just walking around the store, and I would just run my hand across everything. Because for some reason, because just everything had a different feel to it. a lot of stuff that I didn't, that ugh, that I didn't notice before I started noticing, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot of just little things that, like, I don't know, it's just the way you do stuff. Like, okay, something I never thought about. Hi Halo, it's good to see you. Thank you for popping in. Um but it's something I didn't completely think about. But like when my boobs started growing in, I had to, cuz I work in retail also, and so I lift boxes and stuff. I had to relearn how to carry boxes cuz I couldn't have them right up against my chest cuz it hurt. And so like, I've just got to carry these boxes differently now. And it's little things like that it's kind of like, oh, this sucks. I need to do this thing that I grew up learning. I need to do this differently now. But at the same time, it's like I'm becoming, who I wanted to be from the beginning. And even if it sucks to do, it makes you happy to encounter those things. One thing I do actually hate though, is that I didn't know this also, but your nails get weaker on estrogen. My nail, like, I had long nails before I started on HRT, but they break so much more now after HRT because they're just like thinner and stuff. And so I really hate that, especially since I like to have longer nails, and working in retail, they're very much at risk of breaking like every shift. So yeah, I think that's kind of the only thing that really comes to mind for the physical changes that I dislike.
That's interesting. I never knew that about the nails.
Yeah, I didn't know about it either. It wasn't until I was looking into, I don't remember what I was looking at exactly. It was something just about like HRT changes or something like that. But yeah, I miss my nails being stronger. Having nail polish on them does give them a bit of a shield because they're, it makes them thicker, but they still break a lot more than they used to.
Interesting.
But unless you guys have a question in chat first, and just a reminder for chat people, I'm sorry I'm not paying as much attention to you guys as I usually do today, but I am still trying to keep an eye out for questions and stuff that you ask. But Raven's asking, what was the first sign you had as a kid that you were trans? And we kind of touched on this a little earlier. I don't think we talked about first signs. I honestly can't remember a first sign for me. Like, one of the first signs would definitely be like, and it's not 100% a sign, but kind of what we were talking about earlier with me being confused about why boys and girls were separated for like sports teams, and me wanting to be a part of the girls team. Stuff like that was probably the earliest signs that I can think back on. Do you two have anything to add as far as first signs? We kind of touched on that stuff already, but
Yeah, actually, the first sign that I'm aware of was like just the kind of invasive thoughts of wanting to have been born a girl.
okay, yeah. And for you, Fern, like, again, this is kind of not as relevant.
Yeah. I don't have one, but I do have a funny anecdote.
Okay.
When I was born, I swear, I feel like my parents just knew I was trans even when I just came out of the womb.
Yeah, they were just waiting for it.
Yeah, well, when I was born, they named me a different name than the one that I was then given later. They named me a girl's name, like a very traditional girl's name. for 3 days, and they kept testing it out while I was home and like calling me, and they're like, "This isn't right." And then they named me a name that is a boy's name, fully a boy's name. So I kept it, even now since transitioning. But they literally like changed my name for me, pretty much. Which is very funny.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. I definitely have a.
They just had a sixth sense about you.
Yeah, they knew, like, I guess, yeah. It's interesting.
So Raven, the one who asked the question, says that they had a church Christmas play and switched roles last minute to a tree. They were supposed to play the sister. They just chalked it up to anxiety, but years later realized it was because they were trans. Yeah, it's that sort of stuff we look back on and we're like, why didn't I know back then? Also, hi Mech God, it's good to see you. I'm so glad to see you pop in. We're just having a little bit of a discussion about our trans experience. And we're doing a charity stream. If you guys are interested, you can put in !charity. We're donating to the Trevor Project today. They're a group that helps with advocacy, counseling, and research for queer youth. And they're very, very worthy of your money if that's something you're interested in doing. No pressure to any of you, of course, but if you are interested in donating to the Trevor Project, you can just go right down below where the subscribe button usually is. It should say donate. Well, let's move on. How strict are you two on time? Because we have about 20 minutes left scheduled, but if you two are okay with going longer, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, perfect. Like, we might finish up in that 20 minutes, but I do want to make sure we have enough time to talk about everything. I don't want to rush through everything, and I want people to have, an opportunity to ask questions as well. We do have a lot of content to still cover in what I have written down. So let's see. If you could change one thing, whether it's pre or post transition, what would it be? And I'm not sure if this means like something tangible or if it can be like an intangible thing. We don't really have any guidelines for this, so I'm just going to go with, if you have all the power in the world, if you have that, Thanos ring where you can change, or not ring, yeah, ring, I don't know, glove. Yeah, if you can change an aspect of your transition or whatever, either pre or post, what would it be?
Honestly, I may not change anything because, like, at least regarding myself, time-wise.
Sure.
Because, yeah, I've had my ups and downs, like smooth sailing, the roughest seas possible and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I am who I am because of it. So I wouldn't necessarily change anything in that aspect.
I kind of have a similar thinking to that as well.
If at all possible. Honestly, despite, current situations in, like, the country and everything, I probably wouldn't change it either because of the fact that, like, I don't want to force someone to think something is right or to forcefully change their opinions. Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
It's just the methods of which they go about kind of like going against
enforcing that.
people.
Yeah. And that's something I want to address real quick because I think a lot of transphobes particularly, I think there's this, what would you call it? Not a trope exactly, but there's this idea of, a trans agenda where we just want to corrupt everyone. We want everyone to, change their gender. We want nobody to have a gender. We want to just, destroy everything. Obviously, that's not true at all. And like, as frustrating as it is for someone to, not see things the way we do, most of us at least, don't want to just like force people. We want people to understand. That's why I'm doing this. I'm hoping that, obviously I think most of you watching are probably already great allies or trans people yourself. We're probably not going to change the minds we want to with this stream, but I want to spread understanding because I think most people do mean well. Even if they're doing bad, I think they mean well. Obviously, there's some people who are just, proper jerks. But I think the overwhelming majority of people want to do the right thing. And I think having genuine heart-to-heart conversations with people can change minds. And so, yeah, that's kind of why we're doing this stuff. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Fern, if you could change something, what would you change?
The only thing I wish I did differently was take more photos of myself and take more like videos of
like
how my voice
transition
changed.
photos.
Yeah, transition.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay,
like I
yeah.
should have specified because I was very insecure and upset with how I looked for a few years, so I didn't like photos taken of me at all. Like,
Right.
I was very classic, which that's not necessarily just a trans experience either. That's like a
Sure, yeah.
teenager thing.
It is very characteristic for trans people, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like for a few years, I was an esports coach, and I would record videos of the people that I was coaching for later to like watch back. And I never recorded my own voice because I was upset about how I sounded during those videos. And it's a shame because now I watch them back and I'm like, darn, I kind of wish I could have heard what I was saying, but I can never change that. But like, I wish I was kinder to myself in those moments so I could look back on it now.
That's a really big one. That's kind of similar to what I would change. Like I'm kind of with Luna where I'm hesitant to change anything because, for better or worse, all the experiences I've gone through in life have made me who I am. Like, if my thing that I would like to change is I wish I was more confident in myself when I was younger, because I knew like so many years ago and just did nothing about it because I had a bunch of doubt. So I wish I was confident in making strides to transition earlier. But on the other side of that, like, if I had transitioned earlier, I don't think I would have had the need or desire to join the Trans Academy when I did. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have met my girlfriend, who is actually going to be moving in with me really soon. Like, we're trying to do that within the next couple months. And she's the only person I've had romantic interest in. Like, I love her so much, and I would never have met her if I didn't go through the transition journey that I went through. But if I could ensure that I would still have her, and like, you know, that sort of stuff would all still happen, I would definitely want to try to transition earlier and be confident in knowing who I am. But yeah, I think that wraps up that question. We have one more in this coming out and transitioning topic that we have to ask. And I think we've kind of touched on a little bit of it just with our experiences. But someone asked if you could give any advice for someone in the closet, what would it be? So we'll go ahead and start with you, Luna.
Yeah, I forgot I was muted. Honestly, take everything in stride and move at your own pace. Because you don't want to rush into things without any proper knowledge of what you're doing. And kind of one that plays into it, I suppose, is make sure you have a safe space to do everything. Like, because of course we all take risks by, you know, going on hormones and just being ourselves in a day-to-day basis. It can very much play in the
No worries,
it
take your
plays
time.
into our home lives as well. Like, for those that are in a very unsupportive household, or even to the point to where it's dangerous if you were to come out or to start transitioning in any way, shape, or form, it would be better to wait till you get out of that situation, or at least to try to get out of it sooner rather than later. That's all I got at the moment.
No, that's great advice. Like a lot of us do feel rushed. We all kind of feel like there's this ticking clock. Like I've met people both younger and older than me who felt the same way. It seems to be this pretty consistent idea of like it's never too early to transition for us. Like it always feels like we've wasted too much time. At least a lot of people I've met have done that. Like I've met a 19-year-old who thought that, like, they were talking to me and they were like, oh, I wish I had transitioned earlier. And I'm sitting over here, you know, in my 30s transition. I'm like, oh, God, I would have killed to transition at 19. But yeah, there definitely is that ticking clock that we all feel the pressure of. And that's, you know, why when I was talking about that first dose euphoria, it's why there was such a relief off my shoulders, was because it felt like, okay, I made it. Like the clock's not ticking anymore, you know? So yeah, that's wonderful advice. Because we do feel that rush, but we don't want to go into anything before we're ready. What about you, Fern?
Two things. One, you know yourself better than anyone else. So if anyone is telling you that if there's anyone else telling you who you should be, fuck them, honestly. Oh shoot, I don't know.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You can, yeah, you can say it. We'll edit it in post.
Okay. Yeah, but you shouldn't listen to them. You should trust yourself and do what makes you happiest. And the internet is an excellent resource for finding people who have similar experiences to you and who can support you when you are in situations that you can't necessarily find people who could support you, or you're afraid to reach out. So if you're watching this stream, you've got access to the internet. Try to use it to your advantage.
Again, very, very great advice. Yeah, remember, guys, that like it can seem like we're alone in all of this sometimes, but there are people out here going through the same thing you are, or going through something similar, or they did go through it and they navigated it successfully. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help where you can. That said, you do also need to do your part too, because no matter how much we want to help others, we can't do everything for you guys. Like, there's a point where you kind of just need to take a leap of faith for yourself and do the thing. You guys kind of covered a lot of what I would say, so give me just a second. Let's see, advice for someone in the Luna said, don't rush into anything. I do want to say the other side of it. Don't wait like I did. Like I said earlier, I spent well over a decade doing nothing, hoping things would just like work out. Things aren't gonna just magically happen. We're not gonna, we're not gonna be isekai'd. We're not gonna find a magic ring that, changes our gender. You guys gotta make it happen, and you're strong enough to do so. Like, I never thought when I was younger that I'd be where I am today. I was a loner, introvert, socially anxious. I mean, I'm still a little socially anxious, but I would just go to school or go to work, come home, play games, wait for the next day, feel sorry for myself that I wasn't who I wanted to be. I'm so much happier now than I ever was back then, and I never thought I would be, a streamer on hormones with a bunch of friends. Thank you for the follow, Zoe. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is so... I never thought I'd have a girlfriend. Like, everything about my life right now, it was not on my bingo card, and here I am. So don't wait. If you're feeling that this is the right call for you, at the very least look into it more. Start on some hormones, like with the male to female stuff. Like, aside from the breast development, that's not reversible, but that doesn't happen for at least like 3 months most of the time. You can start and then decide, you know what, this isn't for me. Like, think about it, like Luna said. Make sure you know what you're doing, but don't just put things off. Don't just sit around waiting for things to happen. If it's something you think you want, you've got to go for it. So I think that's... Oh, go ahead.
There is one more thing I would like to add. It's a saying that I've heard others say, and that I do tend to say myself. It's never too late to start unless you're buried in the ground. So basically, as long as you're still living, you have the chance to do whatever it is to become yourself.
Thank you, Nate. I'll hydrate right now. But yeah, I think we've pretty much wrapped up coming out and transitioning, unless either of you have some final notes to add. But we spent a long time on that one. So I think we covered a lot of what we wanted to talk about. So let's move on to we've already talked about it a little bit, But I want to talk about like transness and our families. We probably won't spend too long on this topic because we have talked a lot about our families already just in the other topics. We kind of heard about Fern, how you were raised in that open, gender nonconformist environment where you were free to explore kind of what you wanted. And we talked with you, Luna, about how, you know, you didn't have such a great relationship with your dad, but your aunt and mom, especially your aunt, were more supportive. And then I don't know if we really talked as much about my family. I know we mentioned a little bit, but my family has always been very supportive of this stuff. The problem was that I was too afraid to trust that they would be. That sounds kind of bad. So like if I really thought about it, I knew my family was going to accept me. I knew they weren't just going to like cast me out. A bigger part of why I didn't come out to them was because I was just afraid of that I was wrong. I doubted myself more than I doubted them. But yeah, I could not have done it without their support, and that leads into one of the questions we have for this. Someone asked, did you have a good support system in your transition, and how valuable was their support to you? And so yeah, we kind of talked about this stuff already, but we'll kind of go through and re-answer or readdress rather some of those things. So Luna, how important was it for you to have, you know, your aunt come in and go to bat for you, and your mom be open, if not immediately understanding?
She wasn't really much of a, like, because I honestly have never really met her in person.
Oh, okay.
So, like, you know, from the few times we've talked and everything, like, I wasn't necessarily expecting it from her because she's on my dad's side of the family. But in terms of support systems, I would say two people that I considered my best friends before I moved. Like, they were there from the start of my transition to even now. I lived with one of them, and they were really, like, they helped me a lot. The friend I lived with, actually, like, we went to Marshall's together. And I think this was whenever I was ready to actually, like, get my first set of actual bras and everything.
Aww.
Well,
honestly,
yeah.
I still need a good bra. My bra sucks.
Gotta go bra shopping.
I do. It's so hard to measure though.
But she was the one that helped, you know, with measuring and all that, you know, trying to figure out the right size. And thanks to her, you know, I figured out how to kind of bra shop and stuff. My other friend, they themselves were born with like an influx of both testosterone and estrogen.
And just a real quick aside, because I'm sure not everyone is very knowledgeable on this sort of stuff. I mean, neither am I. But having high amounts of both is also, it's a bad thing. Like, you know, that's gonna throw your body into whack. It's the same as having, like, you know, if you had low doses of both of those. Everyone has, whether you're a guy or a girl, male, female, whatever, you have some of both of those, testosterone and estrogen, we all have them in us, just in different proportions. So having a lot of both of them or a deficiency of both of them is a bad thing, or even just one of them. Like if you're a guy and you have low estrogen, that can lead to issues as well. Just wanted to do that quick aside, but go on.
Well, they've just been like this giant ball of just euphoria for me, because like since the beginning they've like always referred to me as she, her, and everything. And yeah, like just having.
Well, I mean, if
Just-
you want some tea, you can have some.
They've helped me through some really rough times and all that. And I appreciate them very much, even though one of them is no longer a friend since I've moved.
Sorry you lost
You know,
them,
it's-
but yeah, the experience will always be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do also want to address real quick, because you kind of brought it up with queer people in general, because it's kind of a common thing. There's the idea of, found family as opposed to our actual families, and it's not just limited to the queer community. Like, you can have a found family whoever you are, but it seems to be especially prevalent in our community because, like we were talking about earlier, we do end up worrying a lot about being kicked out or disowned by our families. And so when we talk about family, friends can be family just as much as our blood family. So just keep that in mind going forward. And for you guys as well, like, hopefully any of you who are struggling with things, hopefully you have a supportive family in your corner. But if you don't, like, you can still have a family. There's people out there who will go to bat for you and stick by your side. Raven, I see your question. We'll touch on it once we wrap up where we're at with this. All right, Fern, we kind of got a lot of your support system already, but do you have anything you want to add? Hi, Lady Violet.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for popping in.
Definitely, my parents have been a huge support, and I'm really lucky for that. My other family members, not as much, but kind of what you said about found family. I don't need my brothers. I've got two siblings that I love and communicate with way more than them. I have like one of my best friends in the world. They're like a sibling to me. I love them so much. And I don't. I'd rather focus on the people who love me and want to contact me and want to like put an effort.
The people
And I
that
think that should
choose
go for
to be
everyone.
with you rather than the people forced to be with you.
Exactly. But yeah, for the most part, my parents, which I've already talked about. So.
Right. Right then, so my support system was, because I didn't have friends really. Like, I've had a few childhood friends that, I'm not on bad terms with or anything, but I'm not really in contact with them anymore. And I mentioned before that I was very much a loner, so my family was kind of all that I had, my immediate family especially. We've always been very close, kind of a, not entirely an us versus the world sort of thing, but, if I knew that we had each other's back. Even if I fought with my brothers, I knew they would still be there for me and they would accept me for who I am. So having them really helped. It would have been nice to have more of a friendship circle. I kind of shot myself in the foot with that one, with not wanting to make friends. After all that, though, so my parents moved out of state. They moved elsewhere within the past few years. And that's actually why I came into the Trans Academy. I was like, okay, my mom and dad are gone, and they were basically my best friends, aside from my brothers. So I really need to have some actual friends, particularly trans friends, because, no matter how close I am to a cis person, there's only so much I can, talk with them about in regards to my journey. And so that's why I went to the Trans Academy, and I've met some of, well, I guess all of my friends directly or indirectly through that. I mentioned I met my girlfriend through there, and everyone I hang out with is someone I met through VR chat. And we could go on a long rant about how important VR chat is for a lot of not just trans and queer, but more introverted people in general. Kind of out beyond the scope of this. Maybe we'll talk about it another day. Maybe we'll have a candid VR chat talk. I do want to do more of these discussions, even if they're not charities. But yeah, having friends in your corner, it changes things so much. And if you don't have a supportive family, that can be the difference between, you being happy and doing something rash that we're not going to talk about here. But hopefully you kind of gather. But yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know if we really have much more to touch on with family matters. Because we've kind of been talking about that stuff throughout the entire stream. Do you guys have anything to add? All right. Then real quick, we're gonna address Raven's question. Let me see, where was it? How did it feel the first time you wore clothing that you felt comfortable in for the first time? Example, wearing a dress for the first time or wearing a suit for the first time. I know I kind of mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you guys talked about that stuff so much, like your first time wearing gender-affirming clothing. Luna, what was that like for you?
My first skirt.
Did you do the spin?
Yes, actually. It's it's the same solid black. I forget what kind of skirt it is from Amazon that I've seen in so many trans memes.
Right. Saving trans lives out here.
Yeah, like, no, just for me, it felt kind of otherworldly. Like, it's hard to explain kind of how I felt whenever I tried it on for the first time. Especially with it just being kind of like a guess size.
Right.
Having no idea, how the sizing for women's clothing works and everything.
I have definitely bought my share of things that turned out to not fit at all.
Right. it was just amazing. Honestly, it's the only way I could put it.
How about you, Fern?
It even though I've identified as trans for a very long time, these past few months, like since like late February, I've been dressing for the first time like truly the way that I've been wanting to, and only me. And like a bit of it has been more like yeah, I guess like more experimental with how I've been dressing, and it's been
Sure.
awesome. I've been enjoying it so much, and like I'm going to thrift stores, and I'm not worrying. It's also because I'm in college, so there's no one else thinking or like judging how I'm dressing except for myself, which
Yeah.
definitely has influenced it. But like, just since Raven mentioned specifically the suit thing, I wore like a full suit and went out for the first time in it this Friday, and like I was dressing like a little bit provocatively too. I had like my button down like half open, and
Oh
I
my.
felt awesome. It was so nice. I know, right? It was a little scandalous, but it was like it was awesome. It felt so good, and I have been like, it's the first time in my life that I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, wow, I look great.
That's
it's like, It's really
amazing.
awesome.
Right, so moving on. I told you guys about like my first time wearing women's clothes when I snuck into mom's closet. And so yeah, that was euphoric but very scary. There were a couple other times I could consider firsts though. Like the first time after I came out where I got to go. My mom took me shopping for women's clothes, and I should also take a moment to say, like, Fern kind of mentioned it with being more explorative with his fashion. You are gonna buy a lot of clothing early on that you end up not wearing while you try to find your like proper gender fashion. I can't think of the best way to word it, but like you're gonna spend some time trying to find what works for you, what works for your body type, what fashion you like. Because there have been so many things where I'm like, ooh, that's so cute, and so I buy it, and then I'm like, I don't like this on me. Like, I need to find things that I think are cute that I also, match my body type and everything. And so you're gonna take time to explore fashion and figure out what works for you. That said, the first time I was wearing clothes that like I went out and openly bought, I wasn't wearing them secretly. I wasn't I wasn't hiding anything. I tried them on when I got home, and I remember like sprawling out, laying on my bed, and just like basking in it. It felt so good. Another sort of like first is when I started filling out some of my tank tops a bit. Like there's one in particular where I put it on, and even though I have just small breast growth, it was enough to kind of fill out where they're supposed to fill out. And oh my gosh, that felt so amazing. It feels great to wear clothes that fit. So yeah, to answer your question, feels great. Let's move on. I'm wondering, are you guys doing all right? Do either of you need a break or anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Then we are gonna move on. We're gonna talk a bit about transness in the media. Or not even just transness in the media, but just our transness and things that maybe helped us with that, different books or movies. We do have a couple questions. How do you feel about trans representation in media? What are some things that movies, shows, books tend to get wrong or not talk about enough? And I don't know if we want to go in order for this one or if we want to kind of just have an open dialogue. Do you guys want to stick with what we've been doing? Seems to have been working so far.
I mean, right now I can't honestly think of much.
Yeah, no, that's
Like,
totally
I'm trying
fair.
to
So
still
let's
sort things
kind
around.
of have it a little open. So trans representation in media is iffy. Um, so when I was growing up, 90s kid, 2000s teen, most of the trans women I would see were either evil characters or just the butt of a joke. And that's gotten better. It still kind of remains the case a lot of times, though. We don't see a ton of great trans representation. We have cartoons of all things kind of being better in that regard, things like Steven Universe, things like She-Ra, things like that have some good representation, not just for trans people, but queer people in general. So I want to see more trans representation. We do get some good trans actors playing trans people. And, we have like Elliot Page, who, after transitioning, changed his Umbrella Academy character to be male. And so we have some moments like that where it's a bit of a win for us, but on the whole, I don't think there's nearly enough of it. And when we do get it, it tends to follow a very tropic narrative. Like, we see a lot of, oh yeah, this person knew from a very early age that they were, another gender, and they were always unhappy until they could be themselves. And sure, that can be that can be someone's story, but for like someone like me, I was like, ooh, I wasn't like 100% sure that I was a girl when I was, 5 years old, so I must not be trans. Perpetuating those tropic narratives can be harmful for people who, are trying to understand themselves. They don't necessarily get that, like what we're trying to say here, there's no wrong way to go about your transition. It's whatever works for you. I've kind of just been ranting on about that. But I think that's one of the things that they get wrong a lot, is like that very specific tropic story. But you guys...
I definitely agree with that, and also what you said specifically, like regarding cartoons, totally true, which I'm happy about. And I also, something that I particularly wish I could see more of regarding trans people is it not being either one, like a plot problem for a story,
yes,
or to showing just the suffering of being trans, because I think there can be a lot of beautiful moments with being trans and celebrating trans joy specifically, because it's not a sad thing. It's unfortunate that a lot of trans people suffer a whole lot, especially with
Yeah.
transitioning and with people being unsupportive in society at large and everything. But at the same time, you can find other trans people or other people in general who are supportive of you, and that can be beautiful. And I wish there
Kind of
was more of that.
building off of that real quick, what you were saying about, trans people, it's unfortunate that so many suffer. Like that suffering, I think it's important to clarify that, some of the suffering is because we're in the wrong body, but I think a bigger portion of it is because society doesn't accept us trying to move towards what we feel like, oh darn, we're in the wrong body, let's try to fix that. But then, society tells us, no, that's wrong, you can't do that. So I think, like, if society is more open about it, that suffering is going to be reduced immensely. And so, yeah, it's not suffering solely because of transness, I think is what I'm trying to get at. But
Yeah, and on top of that too, I think something very important that I talk about this with even mostly actually other trans people who are having a hard time accepting their identity is that you do not have to be miserable with who you are currently to be trans.
yes,
You
yes.
just enjoy the concept of who you could be more. Gender dysphoria should not be the only reason that you could be trans.
Yeah.
It's perfectly acceptable and valid to just be happier with the idea of who you may be if you transition. And that should be appreciated more too. Being trans does not inherently mean you have to be suffering and absolutely miserable with who you are
Yes.
currently.
Absolutely.
And I really wish there was more of that. That's particularly, I think a lot of trans people, for many trans people I've talked to at least, that's a big reason why they assume that like they couldn't be trans, because they're not as miserable as you're expected to be. And like if you're not miserable, then your experience isn't valid to some people, which is ridiculous.
I know I certainly felt that. That was one of the things that put doubt in my mind, was I'm like, well, I'm not like, on the verge of ending my life. Like, candidly, I will be, completely honest. I definitely had passive ideation. Like, I definitely would wake up in the morning being like, gosh, I wish I never woke up. But I never thought about actively. I considered like what it would be like, but I never attempted or anything like that. And I would think, oh yeah, my dysphoria is not strong enough. I'm I can tolerate living in this body. Turns out I couldn't, but yeah, like it messes us up a lot, seeing this representation that's so narrow. Similarly, like we see very, I don't want to say stereotypic exactly, but like, we'll see a trans female who, like, they hate wearing pants. They only want to wear dresses. They can't stand anything masculine. And that's overwhelmingly not the case. Like, it's a spectrum. Like, I wear pants way more than skirts. I will say girl jeans, way better than guy jeans. They are so much more comfy. But but yeah, like that was another thing. Like I felt like I had to be super femme, and that in itself ended up being kind of dysphoric because I was still kind of faking who I was in trying to be more feminine than I was. That's another bit of advice for anyone, fledgling trans people out there. you're not striving for a label. Labels come after you find yourself. Like, focus on being who you want to be, who you are, and the label will come after. You find a label to help describe yourself. You don't have to live up to any label's expectation. Oops. But yeah, there is needless to say a lot left to be desired with trans representation in the media, but it is very slowly getting better. We're seeing more good representation. A connected question that was asked on Discord was, what are your favorite representations of trans people in the media? And honestly, that's a hard one for me. Like, off the top of my head, the only trans character I can think of that, like, I super adore is Double Trouble from She-Ra. Like that's a kind of starts out as a villain, but kind of more an anti-hero type character, an antagonist at the very least. But yeah, Double Trouble I love, and one of the reasons I love that representation is nobody like makes a big deal out of it. They just casually acknowledge them as they, them. Like, it doesn't matter if they're fighting against each other or if they're like on the same side. They just respect the pronouns, and I think that's amazing. Simple things like that are what I want to see in the media more with trans people. Also, I guess same show. I'm blanking on his name. The pirate guy. Who's the pirate guy?
Oh, Seahawk.
Seahawk. Like, not canonically, I don't think, but like in my head canon, trans man. Like, there's so much trans mask energy there. And so if we count him, I count him too if we're going with that. Hi, Blake. But yeah, do you guys have some favorite trans characters?
I have so many.
Okay.
But I could gap about
Go.
this for eons.
Yeah,
So I'll try to keep it short.
I mean, we're at 2 hours 30, which means it's like 8:30 max for the US folks. For me it's 6:30, so I can keep going a while. But yeah, just go off.
Rain from the Owl House is the very first one because similar to Double Trouble, they're just non-binary. It's not like it's not crucial to the plot line. They
Yes.
and I think that's really lovely, where people just exist, and trans people deserve to just exist in a storyline. Same with like gay romances and stuff. I don't think like it doesn't need to be a huge plot line. Like, gay people can just exist.
Yeah, no, seriously. Every time I see like a gay romance that's just casually included, like it's just a normal romance, they don't make a point of it being a gay romance, that makes me so happy. It's kind of like if any of you have seen Paranorman, like it kind of rides the line of like a punchline thing, but I love the way they do it. Like, spoilers for Paranorman, minor spoilers, but like this girl character is constantly pursuing this very clueless himbo character, and then at the very end he says something like, oh yeah, my boyfriend would love you, you gotta meet him or something. And I just love that because it's so casual. Even though it's like a punchline, it's not like making fun of, queer people. It's just making fun of the whole situation of her pursuing him the whole movie. But yeah, like you were saying, casual inclusion is a lot of times best inclusion.
Hmm. Also, oh wait, Luna, do you have anyone? I don't want to like.
No, I'm gonna be honest.
Oh,
I haven't watched very many shows or
Yeah, no
movies.
worries.
okay.
So
So
that's
rattle them off, Fern.
okay. Um, well, the thing is a lot of these are just headcanons, and also I'm a very, very avid fanfic reader, so like every character, I find a way to make a character in like every show I watch trans somehow.
That does
But
bring up something else that, I've definitely observed, and I think it's just like kind of common knowledge in the trans community. Like it's kind of a joke how, we'll just take any character, and if we can find a way to make them trans, we will. I saw a comment online once, like it was a tweet or something, complaining about how like a fan base was going on about like theorizing a character being trans, and they were just like upset about that. And then one comment said like, yeah, we're taking this character, and if you keep whining, we're gonna take another one. So just like stuff like that,
nice.
it's kind of a meme, but it's it's sad if you read into it, because it means that we don't have enough characters represented for us to latch on to, that we need to adopt, we need to headcanon. And so yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
touch on that, after you mentioned that.
Yeah. Victor from Arcane is heavily, heavily implied in some way. And
Yeah, I'll definitely headcanon that.
yeah. Lake from Infinity Train. Very heavily implied also.
Who else? Trying to think of shows that I recently have watched. It's all cartoons is the thing, and a lot of the time I feel like, especially, I really wish there was more trans mask representation. I
Yeah,
don't see that a lot at
we
all.
definitely don't see trans masks in general, like not even just for fun media. Like we we don't get as much of them in the news and stuff. We don't, I mean, that kind of changed with Elliot Page being at like a big celebrity. But like we still have plenty of people who don't even think that non-binary people exist. And I'm pretty sure, like I've talked to some people, and I'm pretty sure they don't know about trans men. And so like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's definitely less trans mask representation than trans femme, for sure.
Yeah. I agree. Unfortunately.
actually, now that I was thinking about it, because you brought up non-binary, there is actually some representation. I wouldn't say like it's not bad, but it's also, I guess, not the greatest. Call of Duty, the latest one, Black Ops 6. One of the multiplayer characters you can play as is non-binary,
Oh,
and their name is Rossi Endgame.
that's definitely a step. I'm not a Call of Duty player myself, but yeah, it's great to see that.
Well, I can definitely say the COD community was not really happy about it.
I don't think that surprises anyone. I learned today, actually from Adam Crow. I don't know if he's still lurking about in chat, but Adam Crow is doing his own day of, or not day of visibility, but visibility week. He's doing some games that highlight trans characters. Today he played Battlefront though, and it was because there's actually a canonical transgender clone named Sister, and I didn't know about that, but I am so stoked that that's a thing, because we've already seen, how much individuality the clones can have. And I guess in the Bad Batch, I haven't seen or read or anything. But apparently the Bad Batch, it kind of establishes that transgender clones can be a thing. But yeah, I'm so thrilled. Yeah, no, I didn't know about her before, Blake. It was only because Adam did meant like talked about it a bit. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. Oh well. So I feel like there was something else I wanted to touch on with representation in the media, but I can't remember what it was. So unless you guys have anything else to add to that topic, I think we'll move on. We're kind of getting close to the end. I kind of just have some extra questions here, and then it'll be final thoughts, I think. So let's go. This one kind of similar to the trans characters that we like. Who are some trans figures, historical or modern, that inspire you? And this is kind of a hard one for me, because I don't honestly have a whole lot of trans people who inspire me. Like, I have people who inspire me, but not trans specifically. I guess I admire Wendy Carlos, unless I'm mistaking the name, who wrote the soundtrack for Clockwork Orange and The Shining, among other things. Like, those are both amazing soundtracks, and so, I'm happy to have her among the ranks of trans women. Lena Raine, going along with,
Oh my gosh,
trans composer.
Rain.
Sorry, I stole your answer. But yeah,
No,
she's...
No, it's okay. I had another one.
She's amazing. I can't say that these people inspire me exactly. But I do have a level of admiration for them. Honestly, for anyone who can be in the public eye out as trans. But do you guys have any... Oh, the Wachowskis, Rain? Yeah, definitely. I still have not watched any of the sequel Matrix movies, only the first.
The first and main one, Natalie Wynn, ContraPoints. She totally has influenced my perspective on life and on transness and empathy overall. And I think not only is she a very inspiring trans figure, but she's a very inspiring woman in general. And if you had to, she's a YouTube video essayist, and I think labels herself as an ex-philosopher too, because that's what she went to school for.
Yeah, I think probably most, if not all, of the trans people watching probably know about her, but I'm guessing most of the cis people don't.
Yeah, if you're cis and you want to learn more about trans people and how to be supportive, I feel like she's probably one of the best people to watch. There's other trans YouTubers too, but I'm just a huge fan of her.
Speaking of YouTubers, there's one, I haven't really watched her as much recently, but there's a trans YouTuber named Hazel, and oh my gosh, I love her videos. I love her voice. I want to, I guess she inspires me to a small degree, because I definitely want to be able to make content people enjoy like that. That's part of why I do these streams. I want to make people happy. I want to be someone who can give even a little bit of inspiration or make someone happy. Maybe that sounds kind of not arrogant or narcissistic exactly, but like wanting to be in that limelight or something can sound a little off-putting for some people, I guess. But yeah, like it's such a great thing to be able to inspire someone, and so like I kind of do look up to Hazel in a way, because she does it seemingly so effortlessly. But yeah, did you have, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, trans figures, historical or modern, that inspire you. Did you have any, Luna?
I don't really know of any.
Yeah, it's tough.
I wouldn't say, like, you know, the kind of influencers or characters that I do know of inspire me, but I do admire, you know, what they do and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure you've watched her, but Yuko EX, which
I think I have popped in. I'm not super familiar, but I recognize the name.
she does a lot of kind of skits for YouTube Shorts and all that.
Oh, okay. I think I know who you're talking about
And
now.
I just fully embrace like the chaotic energy. But another, well, this one's like an actual video game character, which unfortunately I haven't played because I'm not good at platformers.
Oh, I love platformers.
Celeste.
Ooh, yes. And someone actually mentioned that in chat. Madeline from Celeste is trans, and I think that's amazing trans representation too, because it's like what Fern was talking about earlier with not calling attention to it. Like, the only reason people knew about her being trans was the photo, or yeah, I think it was a photo. It was something that confirmed her as trans in one of the like B-sides or something. I don't remember. But yeah, the whole, oh my gosh, Drambeak, thank you so much for $15. Yes, thank you, Doctor. Thank you for donating $15 to the Trevor Project. For those of you who don't know, Drambeak is my girlfriend. I love you very, very much. And just because, you know, we had another donation, I gotta give my little spiel again. The Trevor Project is an organization that helps save trans, not just trans youths, but queer in general youths' lives through 24-hour counseling, advocacy with policymakers and educators, research being conducted. They got their hands in a few different things, all to help make our lives better, starting with our, you know, younger members of our community. So it's a very noble organization to donate to. So thank you very much. I think that brings us to, I didn't set a goal, but that puts us at like 45 or something dollars, which is more than I expected to make. That's pretty good, you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. But what were we talking about before that? Oh yeah, Madeline in Celeste. Like, the whole game is a trans allegory. Climbing the mountain, falling down, and it can be, you know, paralleled to a lot of other journeys too. But her being confirmed as trans, like, that's pretty awesome. I kind of interrupted you though, I think. Did you have more to say, Luna?
The only other thing I was gonna say is that, like, the game Celeste, like, it heavily does relate to kind of like fairly common things that, you know, trans people suffer with, but it can also to relate to those who have like severe depression, anxiety, you
Absolutely.
know, like just other issues that a fairly good amount of people, at least these days, have. Because I've watched a video of someone who just generally plays a lot of kind of like deep-seated games that address issues, specifically on like the mental illness side, and also just because they love platformers. But they were saying like it kind of, they really relate to like the depressive anxiety aspect of the game.
And I think it is worth noting that there is a very high comorbidity with, you know, gender dysphoria and just like generalized anxiety and depression. There's a lot of trans people who suffer from both of those. Like I definitely have my anxiety separate from the dysphoria and, you know, depression as well, but my depression was most heavily centered on the dysphoria side of things. There's also like a disproportionate amount of autistic people, if I recall correctly, who are trans. Like, what I'm trying to say is there's a larger proportion of autistic people in the trans community than the cis population. And honestly, I think that kind of makes sense because I think one of the characteristic points of a lot of autism is not being as bound by social, I don't want to say customs, but I can't think of the better word, social customs. And so you're a little more willing to explore different gender routes than, say, a non-autistic person might be. So there's definitely reasons for different comorbidities, but yeah, anxiety and depression are definitely something that a lot of trans people also contend with. And yeah, you can definitely see it in Celeste, like you were saying, Luna. Let's move on to our next. We kind of already touched on this, but there's a question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to trans people who might be struggling? I think we kind of touched on that, but do you guys have anything you want to add before we move on? No? All right.
I think we covered most bases.
Yeah. All right. This one's kind of more of a fun question. If you could have any outfit magically appear in your closet, what would it be? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Ooh. Some really, really nice kind of like gothic
Ooh.
clothes.
Full authentic getup of a cowboy outfit
Oh
or
my
a
God.
pirate outfit. Either
And-
or. I think
and-
either.
Any particular reason? Are you gonna go into that at all? Or just
Do I
leave?
need an explanation?
You don't.
Pirates and
don't.
cowboys are sick.
Fair enough. I was just wondering
Oh
if there
my
was
gosh.
some special reason.
I just love it. I remember okay, I'll keep this really short, but I remember going to Colorado and walking around and seeing just a full cowboy in a grocery store. And I was freaking out. And the other people I was with were like, "This is not like insane," and I'm like, "It's a cowboy!" Like, I was so excited, and no one was cared. But
That's so
I still
funny.
Think about that cowboy.
Cowboy changed your life. Honestly, I don't know. There's a lot of outfits I'd like. If I could have one magically appear in my closet, gosh, yeah, I probably some VR chat fashion outfit, honestly, but I don't think I'd look as good in it as like my normal style is like some flare jeans and maybe like a nice tank or cami with some sort of overshirt. I like cardigans, or I don't know what you call them. Like the stores call them kimonos, but they're not kimonos, but they go over you. And I love those, but yeah, I don't know. Astral style is jacket, skirt, and thigh highs. Not so much. I don't really wear thigh highs. I do like skirts, but I tend to wear longer skirts when I wear skirts. No, Blake. It's not like an actual Japanese outfit. Um, it's kind of like a shawl almost, but it has sleeves. Um, but yeah, I don't really have a specific outfit that I'd like. Maybe a maid outfit that actually fits. I would unironically like to have a maid outfit. um Anyway, next question. What's something you wish more people understood about being trans? This is another one that, again, I feel like we've kind of been talking about this the whole time, so I don't know if there's anything to add, really.
I mean, at least on my side. So, like, this is just, personal opinion, I suppose. But transitioning is the choice we make. But being trans is not.
That's actually a really good one. Yeah, like we can't help that we're trans. Like you said, the decision we make is whether or not we want to transition and how much. I do think
Right.
that's a good one. I'm glad you said that. Anything you can think of, Fern?
I think being trans is like it's not something that you. I think one of the main reasons that I realized I was trans was the fact that I was thinking about it so much, and that I felt like there was something different that I could have been happier with, and I remember after I'd come out to my dad, like a few days after, he asked me like, "So do you feel like you're a man?" Like I just don't get it, and I said, "I don't know if I feel like a man, but when people use he/him pronouns for me and stuff, I feel more like me." And that's how I described it to him, and he understood. And I think it's just we're just trying to be happy. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's just important to remember.
that's another really good point, because like there is that question, like people will ask like, well, what's it feel like to be in the wrong body, or what's it feel like to be trans? And it's kind of like, well, I don't know. What's it feel like to be in the right body? What's it feel like to be cis? It's we can say what it feels like to have dysphoria, but like it's this is kind of just, it's all we know. And so it's, I don't know. I do wish people would kind of understand that we're not like another species or something, you know? We're just like, we're just in bodies that don't match our minds. But I don't know if I have anything that you guys haven't said or we haven't touched on already for that one. Yeah, I think we've covered most of the things. I can't think of one for this. And then the last question we have from Discord, okay, Blake, I have a maid outfit, but it does not fit me well. For those of you who don't know, I did cosplay with my girlfriend as Rem and Ram, or Rem and Rom, however you're supposed to pronounce it, from ReZero or whatever. And I loved that. I couldn't do it for very long because the wig was too tight. But that maid outfit does not fit well. I want one that fits. Anyway, so we have one more question from Discord, unless any more have popped in. Nope, it looks like we're good. One more question from Discord, and then anything else that they want to ask. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm losing tracking, so I think we'll probably stop it at after this question. How can allies best support trans people beyond just being visible for one day? You want to start, Luna? Oh no.
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We've kind of been talking about a lot of that stuff anyway. We can move on to Fern and go back to you if you think of anything.
One thing that I've never really asked people when I could, and probably they would. Probably strange. Anyway, if your trans friend is going to the bathroom and they'd feel more comfortable if you go with them, if you're like, the same gender adjacent, like, just offer, because at least for me and some other trans people, like, it makes us feel better.
I totally
it's
agree.
Made me feel better in the past. So, like, just, it's it could be considered a small thing. For me, I don't see it as a small thing because you're considering how they might be feeling in moments. It's a nice thing to talk about with your trans friends, especially if they're early in their transition and they feel maybe a little bit more hesitant about that kind of thing. It can be really nice to have an ally in that sort of situation.
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
completely agree with you, and depending on where you at, it can just be safer. Like, we've seen, news stories about someone freaking out because they, not even necessarily a trans person actually went in the bathroom that matches their gender, but like cis people have been harassed for doing the same thing just because someone suspects that they're trans. And so having a partner to go with is totally welcome for the sake of safety and comfort. I'm sorry, I've lost all my... Okay, I have one tracker hanging on, but I'm just... I look kind of silly. But yeah, the bathroom thing, that's a really good one. All I can think of is, like, just be with us. It kind of goes along with the, like, going to the bathroom, but, like, having someone to help us with, at least for the girls' side, having someone that'll be willing to help us with makeup or coordinating an outfit. Like, obviously not all, women have those skills. Like, we have both men and women who are good with those stuff, and of course non-binary as well. I don't want you guys to think I'm excluding, but like someone who's a little more experienced, someone who's been a part of their gender socially their whole life, like just little things can really help us. And I've had people, family or friends, who, like, I ask for a seemingly small thing, like, hey, could you help me with, like, something silly like using a hair dryer? And they're just like, oh, it's easy to figure out. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'd feel better if maybe like you helped me with it. 'Cause I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but there's kind of this, like we missed the tutorial stage, of life. Like we missed the part where we're allowed to like walk around with gaudy makeup that's, not put on very well. We missed the point where we can have some questionable fashion choices, and it should still be okay for us to, do those things. In a perfect world, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be something that people bat an eye at, but it's definitely something where I get anxious about, like, looking like I haven't done this my whole life, and so yeah, I don't know if that's something that you guys have had issues with as well. You got it pretty early, so it might be less so for you, Fern. But I imagine it's still kind of there to some degree.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I think I have had that where a lot of the time just it's changed a bit since I've been in college, because now I'm hanging out and being around trans people more than ever.
Yeah.
But in high school and prior to that, hanging out with cis men especially, I just was like very confused a lot of the time with the way that I was expected to act.
Right.
Especially like even like actually no, like I feel like in particular gay cis men, I just don't know what's going on. A lot of the time. I don't know how to like, explain it properly, but like it's just so confusing to me sometimes. I don't know how to elaborate on that anymore. It's just my experience.
That's totally fair, and that, again, like, we're not talking here about, oh my gosh, that looks, oh, okay, this is how I'm sitting. Like, we're not trying to say that this is everyone's experience. We're not trying to say this is like what it's like to be trans. No variation. This is what it's like for us to be trans. It may be very different for you or, your friend who's trans. Everyone's transition is going to be different. We may share some things, but, some of us are going to transition in high school. Some of us are going to transition after we're retired. It's just, we navigate the best we can, and we help each other along the way. And for those of you who are watching who are trans and maybe haven't come out yet, or even if you have come out, if you've started transitioning, if you haven't started transitioning, I don't want any of you to feel like you have to transition a certain way, like you have to present a certain way. You're just be you. That's all you're doing. You don't have to live up. I know it feels like we do, but you don't have to live up to other people's expectations. And we kind of talked about that earlier. But y'all are yourselves. You only gotta be yeah, as to go back to the question we were talking about, how can allies best support trans people beyond just being visible for one day? Just, you know, make us visible every day. Just
Small, general, everyday things.
yeah,
Honestly.
treat us like we are. Don't treat us like we know we're different from cis people. That's actually another thing too, and I was talking with my brother about it recently. I think there's a perception among a lot of transphobes that we're trying to say we're cis people. Like we say, you know, I'm a woman or Fern's a man. Like, we're not saying I'm a cis woman. Like, I know I'm not a cis woman. Transphobes may think we're deluded, but we know that we're not cis. We're trans, but that doesn't mean we're not the gender that we identify as. A trans woman is a woman just like a cis woman is a woman. It's just an adjective we put before it to help describe our experiences. So, yeah. Just treat us like the gender we identify as. But, you know, at the same time, be understanding that we do have complications we deal with, like the going to the bathroom thing that Fern mentioned. Little kindnesses go a long way. Oh no, I lost my third tracker, you guys. We're going down. But yeah, just, you know, be considerate. That's all we ask. And stand by our side. 'Cause I don't know. I kind of don't know how to wrap this up. You guys want to see my silly body?
Miss Half Body over there.
Right? Oh no.
Really couldn't relate.
I'm a half body loser now.
I have no body, don't worry.
True. Toasty's just stuck to a wheelchair.
So I was
I'm going by username.
I was kind of hoping we'd have more time to just like chat with you guys in chat. But because, you know, it's getting a little later. It's 7 for me, and it's even later for these two. We're gonna go ahead and call it. We will raid today. Thank you all so much just for being here. Thank you to those of you who donated. Thank you to people who followed. I was really worried about this stream. You guys have made it very, very good, and I want to do more of these in the future. Charity streams and discussion streams. So we'll definitely do this again. Oh, yeah, Blake, cross-dressers, they're totally fine. Like, you know, guys can wear girl clothes. That does not, like we talked about earlier, the clothes do not make the gender. Are you throwing plates around? They're just yeeting the teapot. Anyway,
Trying to catch it up.
thank you, Fern and Luna, for joining me and talking about all this stuff today. It's not, yeah, it's not always easy for us to talk about some of this stuff, but I think sharing our experiences and showing how, like, we're all different from each other, I think that really helps people to see and understand and even humanize us a little, because trans people do get demonized. You know, we get accused of being groomers and stuff like that, and it's it's nice to just have normal discussions, you know? So I think we're gonna call it here. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to our end screen while we find a someone to raid. Unless you guys have any final thoughts you want to say, now's the time. No? Alright. Then finish your tea, Fern. Oh, I suppose it's finished to some degree. Alright, so let's go to the stream ending screen and we'll figure out someone to raid here. Let's see, who do we got? Derby, it was great to hear these topics discussed. Thanks for the stream. Of course, yeah, honestly, I love talking about this stuff, and if you guys ever want to talk with me about things like this, or a lot of other discussions, you're always welcome to chat with me about things. I especially like talking about philosophy. I may not be the smartest with it, but I enjoy talking about it. Rain, thank you for the stream, and thank you, Luna and Fern. Loved hearing about your experiences, means a lot. Thank you for listening. It honestly means just as much that you listened. Like, not everyone is willing to, unfortunately. So I'm kind of trying to rush through chat. I've missed talking to you guys. Halo, thank you for popping in, Halo. It was good to have you here. I'm sorry I couldn't be more interactive. Nate, also want to thank y'all for your experiences. Nice to learn more. Yeah, for sure. Been good listening, pretty insightful. Thank you, JPro. Wish you could have been. Oh, you were just fine, Blake. Oh, cute emotes. I wonder where you got some of those, Tequila. Ross, it was good to see all of you. You've been quiet most of the time, JPro, because you've been drawing, but honestly love to have the discussion. Yeah, of course. Bring it up anytime, even on Discord. Aw, Dares, you're still here too. A lot of you were just lurking. Alright, let's see who we have that we can raid. I'd kind of like to raid a trans person, but I don't know if anyone I know is streaming that's trans right now. Halo, you're not trans, but you're not confident or comfortable to be me in public. This was really wonderful and helpful to listen. I'm glad, Halo, and that's another significant thing that I think helps humanize us. I hate that we have to be humanized, but showing that the things we go through as trans people aren't always so different from the things that cis people go through. It's just kind of a different coat of paint on it. But yeah, I don't... Oh, this person's trans, I believe. Let me check on them real quick. Okay, yeah, we got a live one, you guys. Oh, I don't know what they're doing, but okay. So this is going to be an 18+ channel, just a heads up. But we're going to go ahead and spawn Mayabi. Or, wow, Spawn showed up. You missed, oh my gosh, Creeper, you just got here? We were even hanging out before the stream, you dork. Alright, let's go ahead and raid Mayabi. /raid Mayabi. We're raiding the right person this time, you guys. We're not raiding the wrong one. So go hang out with Mayabi. Maybe give him a follow if you're interested. Oh, you were working? Okay. You get a pass then, Creeper. Alright, everyone. I love y'all very much. Thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to me that you guys wanted to listen to this. I'm glad it turned out well. So, go eat some food. You deserve it. Drink lots of water. Be good to yourselves and each other. And what was I gonna say? I don't remember. Why? I have progressively been getting worse at giving my outros, and I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, goodbye everyone. I love you all. Go hang out with my obby. See you on Wednesday for ASMR.